We turn now to Facebook and the growing list of companies that have vowed to stop advertising on the platform over how it handles hate speech and other content that they consider harmful. Over 500 companies worldwide, including big brands like Coca-Cola, Unilever, and Pfizer, have joined the Stop Hate for Profit campaign to temporarily boycott the social media giant. Celebrities like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have also joined that call. Facebook says it invests billions of dollars each year to keep its community safe, has banned 250 white supremacist organizations from its platforms, agreed to an audit, and through AI finds 90% of hate speech even before users report it. But Facebook also says it, quote, has more work to do. For more on the issue, we bring in Yael Eisenstadt, a visiting fellow at Cornell Tech's Digital Life Initiative and Facebook's former head of elections integrity. Yael, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Why do you think these companies are boycotting Facebook, and do you think that Facebook is doing enough to combat hate speech?
So it's actually really great to see so many companies stand up with their dollars and say that they're not going to tolerate this anymore. The boycott, listen, the boycott's not going to solve everything. There's a whole myriad of issues related to how social media platforms operate, how they monetize, how speech occurs on their platforms. That said, when a lot of activists and academics and even employees in Facebook have been speaking out for a while now, for the last few years, about some of these issues. But the real way to make Facebook change, unfortunately, there's really two ways. And one is by hurting the profit, and one is by threats of regulation. So seeing these companies stand up and say, we don't want our ads running next to hate speech. We don't believe the platform's doing enough to really protect society from some of the most dangerous things that are happening on your platform is, I think, a really great step. But is Facebook doing enough? It's really, it's a big situation. There's right now, in response, Mark Zuckerberg made an announcement on Friday on some of the changes they're going to make, and some of them are important, but they're very reactive, right? They're the things that they can do now, sort of the whack-a-mole. What content should they take down? What should they do about certain speech from certain people? What they're never really addressing is the really systemic issues of why their platform is so ripe to be exploited and manipulated by bad actors, by extremist groups, by people who want to interfere in our elections. And those are the harder things that many people have been asking Facebook to step up and do that they haven't really tackled as much.
So, yeah, having worked at the company, how do they go about doing that? How does a company with billions of users go about regulating some of the speech had on the platform? And do you see any problems with Facebook going out and doing that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question it's an extraordinarily complicated situation, because the one thing I do agree with Mark Zuckerberg is I don't want him to be the arbiter of truth, right? It is I will give Facebook credit where credit's due. This is not an easy problem. Understanding what is actually, so for me, for example, some of the content that raised a lot of the issues a few weeks ago was also around the president talking about mail-in ballots. It's not just hate speech. It was, is this a voter suppression tactic? Is he trying to interfere in the trust of our elections? These are really complicated questions. That said, there are some very clear ones that Facebook could have done a much better job of tackling, and not only doing so in reaction. And for example, let's look at this group. There's this hate group. They're called the Boogaloo Boys. People have been trying to highlight to Facebook for a while that these guys were not only on their platform, but were really spreading hate. And then what happened was two of them they met in a Facebook group. They met in a hate group on Facebook, and then they went and they killed a federal officer, in Oakland during the Black Lives Matter protest. So these are really serious matters. And yes, it is complicated with almost 3 billion people communicating on the platform to figure out how to regulate each piece of speech. That said, what I'm more concerned about, and a lot of people are more concerned about, is, are you amplifying this speech? Are you recommending these hate groups to people? Did these people get in the Boogaloo groups because it's what they were looking for? Or is it because you recommended the group to them? These are the bigger questions that really are contributing to this really dangerous situation that many people are really trying to hold the company accountable for.
So it sounds like they'll have to take a deeper look at their algorithms and how they make those recommendations. But I also want to ask you from a legal standpoint, there's been a big debate with a lot of social media platforms claiming they are not publishers, so they are not subject to the same laws of publishers, and interfering with this speech kind of muddies that line. So where do you stand on where that line should be, and how do they tread carefully not to cross it?
Great question. And truly, they're not a publisher in the traditional sense, right? They're not ABC News or the New York Times. They don't have to actually fact check everything that happens on their platform. But to claim that they're just a neutral platform is utter nonsense. Their algorithms curate the content. They decide what you see and what you don't see. They recommend groups to you. I know that Nick Clegg, the vice president, recently in his tour this week to explain how Facebook is doing, keeps saying they're a mirror to society. That implies that everything you see on Facebook is what you came to look for. But honestly, when you are like in a mom's group on Facebook and then an anti-vax ad is shown at you, that's not something that you are looking for necessarily. So to claim that they're just a neutral platform is also not accurate. They're curating your content. They're deciding what news you do and don't see. They're amplifying the most salacious content because that's what wins. People know that in order to keep us on your platform so that they can sell advertising, they have to really game the algorithms to get this real clickbaity, salacious content. So that's really, I know that was a lot, but there's really big issues that need to be handled. And right now they're just sort of tinkering at the margins of saying, well, we'll take down this group. And I do believe it's not good for their business to have white supremacists on their platforms. But it's also very different to say they will have a policy which will take these groups down and saying we'll change our algorithm so it no longer even recommends these groups. And that's some of the core, but also these policies that they haven't been applying them evenly. And this is why it's such a big thing. They did not apply these very same policies against the president of the United States of America. And that's where a lot of this current situation really bubbled up a few weeks ago.
All right. Well, Yael, you say it's a lot, and it is for sure, but it sounds like we need a lot to examine this very large issue appropriately. We so appreciate your insight. Thank you for taking the time.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.